difference between when a person becomes an Onen at the time of death of a close relative, and then when they become an Avel after the burial, and they begin the process of Shiva. So I'm going to introduce you to some of the basic ideas here. First question is a Onen, which is that period between the death and the burial, obligated in the Nihuge Avelis, the laws of an Avel, a mourner. And I will outline the laws soon, but the answer to that question is a machlokus between the Rambam, Maimonides, who says no, but pretty much the Onen is not an Avel. There are some things that Onen is forbidden to do, such as drink wine or wear leather shoes, but he's not, other than that, it doesn't mean you should go to a party, but he's not an Onen, or she's not an Onen. I'm sorry.
Not an
Avel. An Onen is not an Avel.
But he's exempt from all the mitzvahs.
And he or she is exempt, particularly he, because she already is exempt. He would be exempt from the positive time-bound mitzvahs. Not the losas.
This isn't the free pass.
Although the Rambam forgets to say aseh, he just says he's exempt from all the mitzvahs. Yeah, so if you wanted to be medayik too much in the Rambam, you shouldn't be. But
male shouldn't put on tefillin.
And male shouldn't put on film. Good. Okay.
How about
females?
That they should do.
No, they don't say the Shema. Shema is a positive time-bound mitzvah. They don't have to daven. They don't have to say brachos. Anyway.
But they can, no?
It's a debate whether they can or not. Some opinions say they not just don't have to, but they shouldn't. And that's because you have to explore what exactly is it? Is it because they're osek b'mitzvah, pater min mitzvah? Are they just doing another mitzvah? Or is it because they're not in the right place to do the mitzvah? Because they're in a state of grief. So anyway, that's the Rambam. And the Ramban, Nachmanides, says that an Onen is basically an Avel, with maybe he doesn't have to sit on the ground, or they used to overturn their bed, but other than that, the Ramban says the laws of an Onen are the same as an Avel. They don't take a haircut, they don't take a bath, they don't wash their clothes, they don't change into clean clothes if the clothes isn't absolutely filthy. Same laws. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, thank God I like the Rambam. I'll follow the Rambam. Unfortunately for us, the Ramah, we usually follow the Ramah. The Ramah is the gloss on the side of the not on the side, within the text of the Shulchan Aruch. And he says, we follow the Ramban. We follow Nachmanides, and even the Shulchan Aruch also seems that, but clear on the Ramah that we do not have a free pass. An Onen, the real issue is bathing and changing clothes and shaving. According to Ramban, you couldn't do any of those things. And according to the Ramah, which we usually try to follow, unless there's a reason not to, we would follow the Nachmanides, the stricter opinion here. But let's first try to understand this. And today, most achronim are machmir. Again, you have to find out. There's always a good shaila if it's a long period, and you're talking about cleaning yourself up before the funeral, putting on a nice. It's a valid shaila. You don't have to look like a schlump for the funeral. You'll usually get a heter to
take a shower.
To do some necessary things, yeah, so that your other relatives can deal with you. Now, And okay, so almost everyone says that even the stricter opinion, you don't actually sit on the floor. You don't do that part of the avelut. So even if you don't take a haircut, you're still not sitting on the floor. Now, Rabbi Soleveichik in Mishima Shiurim explains this debate by first asking a question on Maimonides, on the Rambam in Mishnah Torah. If you look in Hilchas Avel, the laws of a mourner and Avelut, the first chapter, the Halacha Hey, the Rambam says, Mitzvah saseh lehisabel ala krovim. It's a positive mitzvah to mourn, to be an Avel, over relatives that died. Shenemar, and because there's a proof text that says, V'chalti chatas hayom hayetev be'enei Hashem. It's a verse in the 10th chapter of Vayikra. It's, if those who are familiar with it, I probably should. If somebody wants to pass me a comment, I'll look it up. It's about the death of Nadav and Avihu and the subsequent God telling Moshe to tell Aaron and his sons, don't shter the simcha. Don't let this mourning interrupt your need to serve in the inauguration of the Mishkan, because it's a very special time. If you're gonna be in mourning and you're not going to do the avoda, it's going to be a problem. Anyway, out of that, there's some questions that arose, and Moshe got upset, and Aaron clarified. So that's chapter 10. Okay, verse 11. Let's see what it says. It says... That's verse 19. So it says, Moshe was inquiring about a particular offering, the Sir Achatas, and it was burnt, and he got upset at the sons of Aaron, Elazar and Tamar, and he said, Madua lo achaltem es achatas b'mochma kodesh. Why didn't you eat this offering in the holy place? He kodesh kodashim he, because that's what it is, it's holy of holies. It was given to you to carry an atonement for the sins of the community, so that they be atoned in front of Hashem, before God. Anyway, it keeps going. You didn't do this. The blood was not brought into the sanctuary within. You should have eaten it, and the holiest had commanded. Now, Aaron responded to Moshe. There's a whole commentary of why Moshe addressed himself to the sons. Really, he was kind of like, didn't want to disrespect Aaron, but he meant Aaron as well. Aaron spoke to Moshe. Was it they who this day offered their sin offering and their elevation offering before Hashem? Now that such thing befell me, were I to eat this day's sin offering, would Hashem approve? ? And Moshe heard and approved. So, it's a little bit cryptic exactly what's the response of Aaron.
So it's the korban of Rosh Chodesh, so he didn't want to eat it. So he burned the korban of Rosh Chodesh?
Let's see, let me look at the commentary. I don't know. Give me a second here.
I think they were in protest. Silent protest.
Because it's
I'll just read. Let me read it here. Was it this who this day ? We deduce from Aaron's response. He's basically basing this on Rashi, that he was responding to another possible reason why they might have burnt the offering, since the service of an Onen is disqualified. That's the key here. The offering that they performed would have to be burnt if they were the ones who did the earlier avoda, To dispel this idea, Aaron said that not they, but he, the Kohen Gadol, who had performed the day's entire service, was the one who did that avoda. And the Kohen Gadol is permitted to serve as an Onen, unlike a regular Kohen who cannot serve as an Onen. However, Aaron went on to say, even though the service was properly performed, no one was permitted to eat the offering, for even a Kohen Gadol may not eat while he is an Onen. Basically, according to the way Rashi understands the verse, Moshe made a mistake. And Aaron, instead of correcting him and saying, Moshe, you don't know what you're talking about, he didn't do that. He was respectful to his brother. It's beautiful, actually. He said, you raise a good point, Moshe.
Perhaps.
You raise a good point. Because you're saying, you're giving them a way out. You're saying that if they would have thrown the blood, one of the main things in the Mishkan, when you brought a carbon, was the throwing of the blood, applying the blood on the Mizbeach. But an Onen, somebody who lost a relative on that day, cannot do the avoda, cannot do the service. So Aaron is giving a little shear to Moshe and saying, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're right. If they would have been the ones who did the application of the blood, and they're an Onen, then that would make the avoda pasul, and they could not eat the meat, and they would have had to burn the meat. But that's actually not what happened. I did the avoda, and since Aaron's a Kohen Gadol has a special status. He's not an Onen. He's the ultimate. You know, what's the ultimate of professional? Doesn't matter what happens, they do their job. The highest level of professional that exists is Moshe and Aaron. Aaron is the Kohen Gadol. His own children dies, he does the job. He could be Makrib Onen. Why did they not eat it? Okay, now he corrects Moshe. Because even though an Onen could be Makriv, if he's a Kohen Gadol, but you can't eat it. You get to do the avoda, but you can, but what's the takeaway for the Rambam, for the Gemara that the Rambam is quoting? That in Onen, generally speaking, any other Kohen cannot do the avoda when he is an Onen. Okay, why? Because an Onen is not able to do the avoda. He can't serve God in a state of grief. God gives you the day off.
Wouldn't an Onen
Except for
normally
them.
stay home on a day like
Yes,
that?
correct. Usually an Onen, a Kohen that would be an Onen would be told, you don't belong here. I don't want to say it is because of Osek b'mitzvah pater min mitzvah, but that is one of the elements of it. Another element of it might be, I'll say it in the name of Rabbi Mintz, because he once came to my house for like a dinner, like a formal dinner, like a fundraising dinner for a school that my daughters were in. And he said this in the name of Rabbi Soleveichik, so I'll say it in his name, but he says Rabbi Soleveichik said that there's an element of an Onen not doing a positive mitzvah because they have the right to be angry at Hashem. So you don't ask somebody, you know, if I'm in a fight with you, say, do me a favor now. Well, it's not the time for the favor, you know. So wait. Okay. So that could be one of the possible reasons. Now, here's the problem with that. The same Rambam. Let me finish this Rambam. The ein avelus min haTorah ela b'yom rishon b'lvad. The Rambam rules that the avelus midoraisa, meaning biblically speaking, is only one day. Shehu yom hamisa v'yom hakfar. That is the day of death and the day of the burial. That doesn't mean both days. It technically means when the person dies. Let's say somebody died Tuesday night, and they do the burial first thing Wednesday morning, and the person said Shiva. You start the Shiva right at the burial. You don't even have to go home to begin the Shiva. You start it right then and there, and all day the person is in mourning. So that would be the first day of mourning. They were an Onen before the burial, they're an Avel after the burial. That is Midoraisa. All of the Isurim, there are 11 prohibitions, that the Rambam will outline, and he says they're all midaraisa on the first day. But when? After the Kvura. In the unlikely scenario that you got to do, I've been some very firm people, they pick the body up, they take it to do a Tara, and they take it to the Beis HaKvaris. There's no chapel service, it's just they get it all done, so the body is in the ground before nightfall of the day. It happens.
You're supposed to do it that way even if the closest relatives
No,
are in another
no.
country?
No, but if they're not, if the closest relatives are here and you're ready to go, you go. If all the people that need to be there are we're leaving. We know we're leaving. All the relatives leave. Yeah, you do it. We'll get to how to figure out if the second cousin's wife is on a vacation. What
Where
to
do you
do?
draw the line?
That's a valid conversation. But that's even the Gemara, by the way, just one aside, and then we'll get back to the topics, is for regular relatives, you put them in the ground ASAP. But don't disrespect your parents like that. Make sure everyone is there. You can have an olam. It's more important to have a nice showing for the funeral than putting them in the ground, but that day or the next day. Wait a little bit to get everyone, get the emails out and make the calls.
The nice showing, meaning no pun intended, a body count at the funeral? Is that
Meaning
what
the
you're saying?
friends and family. Give them time to get if it's going to don't schlep it out needlessly. Don't take 2 weeks from the second cousin's wife to get there, but you can wait a day or two for your parents if that will get the nilam. Yeah, but anyway, that was an aside. It's a Gemara, and it's ruled like that in Shulchan Aruch and so on. But that's really you get shilas because in real time people want to know what do you do. This one can be on the way. Cousin Al, they'll get these shilas. I'm not going to address them. It's not even really the point of what we're doing right now. The point here is the other days of the Shiva. So, assuming this case, the guy died Tuesday night, the burial was Wednesday. They start sitting Wednesday, and then from Wednesday night on is no longer Avelus Doraisa. It's Avelus Dorabanan. It's a rabbinic Avelus. But here's the question that Rabbi Soleveichik asks, and asks the question because that's going to help him understand what the Rambam really means. The Rambam is the one who says that you don't do Nihuge Avelus during the Onen period. And yet, what is the proof that he shows us that Avelus is Doraisa? Is from a pasuk about an Onen. That we're not Avelim. I'm trying to see when the burial took place.
There's no mention.
There is at some point that. Yeah. But look, they're referred to as Onen. That whole, you look in the Rashi, you look in the Gemara, you look in the Rama, they're an Onen. So not an Avel. There's an Avel b'Yom Rishon, but they're called an Onen, and yet the Rambam brings proof of Avelus Midaraisa, including these 11 things, from a pasuk about an Onen that he says an Onen doesn't have to do those 11 things. Is it a question or not? You hear the question?
Well,
Repeat the question to me, so I know that you understand the question. What's the question, Danny?
The question is, what do you do? What is the halachic status of an Onen?
Yeah, and what does the Rambam say it is? Does he have to do the customs of Avelus or not?
No.
He does not. So why does the Rambam then bring a proof that an Avel, the first day, is the Oraisa from a verse? By the way, most people don't bury that day. They put it in the ground. Most people, first of all, don't die at night. They die during the day, and there's not enough time to do the burial that day. But okay, there's exceptions. But the raya is from someone who's an Onen. That an Onen shows us that it's the Araisa to be an Avel. But you just got through saying an Avel is not an Onen, and the Onen doesn't have to do all the laws of
What
Avel.
was then the laws of Onen are now the laws of Avelus. That's all.
So Danny has a very innovative answer, that back then, the laws changed somehow. That an Onen then was like an Avel now. Okay, but why would they change? If it was before Matan Torah, the Rambam actually says in this halacha aleph, he says a beautiful thing. We find Shiva in the Torah, so how could you say Shiva is not Midaraisa? He says, Far nitna Torah v'nischadsha halacha. You're right, it says that they sat Shiva. Who does it say they sat Shiva for? Yaakov Avinu. But that was before Matan Torah. It doesn't count. Maybe it was, they were firmer than we were. and not as firm,
Right.
They had this Chadsh Halacha. Okay, that's a famous Rambam here and in other places. Okay, so here's what Rabbi Soleveichik says. Rabbi Soleveichik says, let's first quote the Rambam in Halacha Beis, in chapter Aleph. That was Halacha Aleph, this is Halacha Beis. When does a person become obligated to mourn? Mishiyista Magala. When they would close I don't want to say casket, because they used to, I'm just going to say for argument's sake, they used to bury the person in a crypt, is that the word? Like a cave.
Cave, yeah.
They lower the body into this hole in the cave, sometimes in a aron, in a casket, and then they would close it off. Again, there's a machlokas exactly how to interpret when they close the gola, but most authorities today say that means when you put the body in the ground and put some dirt on it. We say today that's why we make like a little. We ask people to bury it if we're not going to finish putting all the earth in. We say to make like a little mound. Okay, because that's one of the interpretations of the Stimas Agala. But the bottom line is, that's when the Avelut starts. It's very clear that it doesn't start when the person dies. It starts when they do something in the burial. They finish something in the burial. Whether it's they close the casket, but it's the casket that's like in where the burial is taking place, or they actually bury the person, but not before. Aval kol zman shelo nikvar hames, he's even more clear. All the time before that, before the burial, that seems to indicate that he considers the stimas hagola, the kvura, the actual burial. Eino aser bedavar min hadvarim sha'avel aser ba. He's not forbidden, or she is not forbidden from any of those things that an avel is aser. That means you can take a shower. In fact, he brings a proof. Ubibnei tam zeh rachatz David HaMelech. Not a shower. He took a bath. King David took a bath.
He liked baths.
I don't know if you meant to be funny, but that was funny. V'sach, and he also anointed himself with oil, put some nice things on his body afterwards. Kishemes Hayelad, when the first child of Bathsheba died. And that was Kodem.
He was a newborn. Doesn't the newborn have different...
That's a very good question, and also you could say he's a king. A king also is different.
Right.
They're all good questions, but the Rambam brings a proof from there that it was Kodem Nakfura before the burial, so he can still take a bath. He can still anoint, put the oil on himself, whatever. So this is his first son.
First son from Bathsheba.
His first son died right after childbirth, or a few days after childbirth, or whatever it was. Yeah. How old was he? It says how old he was. But by the way, even what you're talking about, the month, the Gemara, the Rambam Paskins, that if a baby is born after 9 months, you don't have to wait 30 days. There is that opinion. It's brought down. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, so born viable.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so here, that's the question. The question is asked, and the Rav answers the following suggestions. That Shiva, we're going to call Shiva Akiyum Avelus, which would be meant like when you are obligated to sit Shiva is because you are now officially an Avel. That's your status, and that's your obligation to be an Avel, to do whatever. You are an Avel. It's like, what are you in that state? You're an Avel. The question is, can you have the chiyuve, the isurei avelus? Can you have the prohibitions of an Avel without the kiyum of the Avel, so without being considered an Avel? It's a technical question. We're going to explain a few different nafkaminas, a few ramifications that will help us understand this concept better.
So if the din of Avelus doesn't fall on you, you are not allowed to show
Well,
Avelus?
the question is like this. The question is, it's not a question of not allowed. You don't, if you're not considered an Avel, you don't act like an Avel. The prohibitions, in other words, if Avelus is considered to start from, let's take, I know, Yair, you had a good question on David HaMelech. It's a good question. I don't know the answer. I'm not going to, I have a question. I don't know the answer. But let's just take the Rambam at face value. He learns from David HaMelech. David HaMelech's a good Talmud Chacham. He knows his stuff. David HaMelech can take a bath before the Kvura. Why? Because you don't have the, if you're not an Avel, because you didn't start the Shiva, you don't have the Isurim of an Avel. They go together. And the Ramban says, no, you could not have the Kiyum of Avel, so you're not fulfilling being an Avel, but you can still have their prohibitions. It's like the prohibitions without the benefit of even being an Avel. Let's say an Avel, for example, just for argument's sake, gives you some form of kapara, or gives your father, mother, they should live and be well, after 120, by sitting Shiva for them, it gives them form of kapara. And you don't get it until the Shiva begins. There's a concept like that, okay? So you're not being Mekayim the Shiva when you're an Onen, because you're not an Avel yet, but you still are forbidden to take a bath. So that would be the Ramban.
Show of respect.
That would be the Ramban. No, meaning, let's say it's not about respecting, let's say the Shiva shows respect for your parents, but the Onen shows that you can't benefit, you're not in the right place to be able to have normal, you still can't benefit the world. You have to, you don't, the Avel, I'll give you another thing. It says, Ain, you don't comfort a mourner, b'shas, their dead relative is in front of them. It's not the right time. So they're not even sitting Shiva, so you can't comfort, they're not getting any comfort. At least somebody who's sitting Shiva is getting comforted. They're sitting, people are coming, they're being menachem them. This guy's not getting nichum avelim because he's not sitting Shiva. So all he's getting is that he can't take a bath. Can't shave. Can't anoint himself. Can't do Shila Shalom. Can't be social, do the rest. So he's just getting the negative without the benefit. The kiyum of the Avelus, at least there's Nechama, Kapara, whatever it is you're getting. He's not getting that. And the Ramban says, yeah, that's fine. You can have one. It's okay. But here's the real question on the Rambam. It just seems to make the question even stronger. He brought a raya from the Aaron, and the Bnei Aaron. They were an Onen. They were not an Avel. They were not Avelim. They were not Onenim. They were Onenim. They were in the first level before the Kvura, and they couldn't do regular things. So therefore, Rabbi Soleveichik says, I'll tell you what it is. He says there's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. Actually, technically, it's a Mishnah in Sanhedrin. The Mishnah in Sanhedrin says, if there's someone who's Aruge Malchus. By the way, the whole reason why, if you look in the Rambam, Hilchas, the halacha of Avel is in Sefer Shoftim, the book of Shoftim. There's Sanhedrin, there's Eidos, there's Mamrin, Zaken Mamre, there's Avel, and there's Malachim. Why is it here? By the way, if you really want to have a great answer to that question, spend $25 and buy the book by Moshe Harbatal called On the Rambam. He answers, that's like one of his main things in the book, is answering this question. Beautiful answer.
Say the question again, please.
What's the name of the book?
On the Rambam?
The Rambam.
Just the Rambam?
The Rambam, that's the name of the book. It's a great book. It's worth $35. Fantastic book. Fantastic. It'll blow your mind. That's the guy who, the whole YU, the whole head guy of YU, why is he special? It's not the Jewish Center, because he did a PhD by this Moshe Harbatal, okay? Because this Moshe Harbatal is a goyin in the Rambam. He really knows his stuff. I mean, he not just knows it, he understands it very deeply. It was a beautiful book. I really enjoyed it. But the simple reason is, it's in Sanhedrin. There's two Masechtas that the laws of Avelos are in. It's mostly in Moed Katan, which is how we got it, because we're learning about Yantif and Hilchos Yantif, and because it's in Sanhedrin. And the Rambam, he didn't want to like share Simchas Yantif by putting in Avelos in Hilchos Chol Hamoed or something. And he didn't want to put it in the Zmanim for some reason. He should have put it in Zmanim. Where does he have life cycle events? Not Zmanim, in Ava. He should have put it in Ava. But he didn't. We have to have learned people here. I know. Anyway, that Mishnah on Mem Vav Amud Beis in Sanhedrin says the following. Again, I'm telling you, that's a shir in of itself. Just to answer the question of why the Rambam puts it in Hilchos in Mishpatim. But that Rambam says when the king, not the king, when the Beis Din kills someone.
I thought they didn't kill him.
Theoretically, when the Beis Din would kill someone, you're talking about Rabbi Akiva said he would have abolished the Beis Din. Yeah, once in every 70 years. When the family doesn't sit Shiva, but rather Lo hayim sabim la haruge besin aval onenim she'ein aninus ela b'leiv. They were an onen even after the burial, because aninus is only in the heart. So Rabbi Soleveichik suggests that there's that. Let's reread the Rambam. The first day is midaraisa. And it's an onen, and that means that it's not that there's no din about Avel on the first day, or before the Kvura, as you would have thought. It's rather there's no din of Isurei Avelus. There's no din of what's forbidden as an Avel before the Kvura. Rather it's a state of Avelus in the heart. That there could be an Onen and an Avel have something in common. Their heart is broken. That they have in common. And that's the underlying thing of what will find expression later after the Kvura in sitting Shiva and being an Avel and have all the Surim of an Avel, all the things that are forbidden for an Avel to do. It doesn't have the expression, the outer expression, during the first stage of Aninus, because the person isn't yet ready to do that because he's busy organizing a thing, or he doesn't even have the headspace to be comforted or to do the things that are associated with that kiyum of being an avel. But it doesn't mean he's not heartbroken. He might be more heartbroken. Okay, that's Rabbi Soleveichik explaining why the Rambam, who on the one hand makes this very strong distinction between an Onen and an Avel, don't misinterpret that to mean that an Onen is nothing. Onen should go out and party. No, the Onen's broken heart. The Onen probably doesn't even need to be told what not to do, because it's so. The Avel needs to be told, sit in your house, sit on the ground, don't do this, don't do that, because maybe by the fourth day he's ready to go to a movie. We're like, don't, you know. The Onen is broken. The Onen doesn't need those laws. He doesn't need all those things. He's broken, and he has his osik b'mitzvah. He's busy doing a kvura.
The Onen is midoraisa, and
The first day is the oraisa. The first day, no matter what you're in, if the person's becomes an avel because he does the burial on the first day, then that part of the avel says the oraisa. Look, everyone agrees that there's certain things an avel doesn't do. An avel does not drink wine. An avel does not. The Rambam says the Rambam.
Buy new clothes.
Live music.
want to go to wedding.
Well, no.
Whiskey's okay.
Whiskey is okay. Whiskey's okay.
And shop.
Is that a personal question there?
And shop.
Look, today no one will say an Onen can hear music, but the Rambam would say technically he could. He's not going to, but he could.
Right.
You know, we don't forbid it per
Why?
se, because we just got. Well, music, by the way, is not one of the things. If you notice, the Gemara never says that the Avel can't listen to music. So that's a whole. Doesn't say it, but that's because the Gemara was written in a time where music was forbidden all year round.
Right,
So don't even talk about that. So that's another topic. We're not talking about that now.
Let's say there was a Shakespearean type festival, something going on.
Look. The Rambam says he's not forbidden. Technically, they're not forbidden. But they'd be a fool to start going to a Shakespeare festival. But technically speaking, if he was the conductor of a Shakespeare... Let's say, the main real thing is that you can't work as an Avel, but you can work as an Onen. So that would just mean... Now, you shouldn't.
I thought worse.
I'm talking about according to the Rambam. We don't paskin like the Rambam. You're talking about a theoretical thing. If you were the conductor of the symphony orchestra, the New York Symphony, and you were an Onen, and you could get maybe a heter, maybe not the day of the death, but this is the day, you know, if it was Saturday night and the funeral is going to be the next day and the person died on a Friday, maybe somebody will give you a heter to conduct. They're not going to give you a heter during the Shiva, definitely not the first 3 days of the Shiva. There's no heter. There's not really a heter for the Shiva. But there would be a heter to follow the Rambam to say the person is not an Onen. They can work. I'm sorry. My memory is so thin I can't even say Onen and Avel straight. So not an Avel. Okay, let's continue. That's Rabbi Soleveichik. We don't paskin. We would say no. You're asking practically. You cannot do that. Because the Ramah paskins like Nachmanides, not like Maimonides. Okay. Now, that's why you ask a shaila. Yeah, a shaila is like when in real life when something a shaila is when there's a conflict, when there's two like valid issues, and then you have to weigh out which one is more valid, the parnasa or this situation.
Do they both agree that you don't get any pleasure while you're an Ovel or an Onen? Is that clear?
According to Rabbi Soleveichik, you're still doing aninus is, even if it doesn't mean that you're forbidden in these 11 things, you're still experiencing grief in your heart. Okay? So you have to, that's a subjective thing. It's not objective. Not taking a haircut is an objective thing. You don't take a haircut. Okay. Now, let's talk about the 11 things. The Rambam lists them in the 5th chapter of Hilchos Avel and Halacha Aleph. He says, The Yom HaRishon, he starts with, if it would be the first day, the day of the death, and after the burial, like the case we talked about. Guy dies Tuesday night, is buried Wednesday morning. So the first day is Wednesday day, throughout the day until the evening. And then the remaining days, from Wednesday night and onwards, for the remaining days of the Shiva, would be rabbinic. And these would be them. Also the saper, you can't do a haircut, which includes shaving. And most people understand general trimming hair, and in pretty much almost any capacity, unless something's extremely upsetting. You can't eat because your mustache is in your food or something. But short of that, you can't do anything to trim your hair during that period. Or you cannot launder clothes. Including in laundering clothes is even wearing fresh clothes, unless the clothes you're wearing is soiled to the point where you just can't wear. You should try to clean off whatever little dirt. You're not supposed to wear a shirt full of stains, but you're supposed to not change your clothes every day. You can change your underwear.
Like you do a tissue box.
You could
take clothes, you throw them on the floor.
You could change your undershirt. You could change your socks, because that's not feasible. You're going to sweat and they're going to be dirty and disgusting. And you're going to get ill from that. If that's what you would do if you really needed to change, and there's a whole other issue with you might have to tear a second shirt, so you want to avoid that. So on. These are things. Again, if it's really dirty, you can change. We're a little bit more machmer than we are during the 9 days in terms of the clothes. We don't just, put it on the ground or wear it for 1 second. Some people do that, by the way, for the shloshim. The shloshim, look, for the haircut, you're not supposed to take a haircut for the whole 30 days. Now, even shouldn't really trim or things like that. Again, if somebody works for a white shoe law firm and they're going to fire him, you ask a Rav, you'll usually get a heter. But short of that, you don't do that during the whole 30 days. And if it's for a parent, you don't do it at shiyiger b'chaver, till your friend yells at you and say, you can't, your hair is wild, you're not Einstein, and you got to get a haircut. Rav Moshe says that in our community that would be 2 months. I don't know if our community qualifies. Maybe our community is 3 months. He says normal people get a haircut every month, so you double that, it'd be 2 months without a haircut. Okay, so, and some people say that even during it's brought down in the earlier sources, they wouldn't wash their clothes normally. They would, some people would not put in the detergent they would wash it without detergent. Or they wouldn't iron certain clothes. Today, we're not so machmer after the Shiva. You wash your clothes, you could do then, if you want to, that's when you could do that trick. If you want to follow the letter of the Shulchan Aruch, you could put the clothes on first, or have somebody else put them on for a second, so then it's considered worn and not new. A lot of people are not machmer to begin with nowadays. Back then, they didn't change clothes as often, so it's a cultural thing. Anyway, let me continue here. So that is with the kibbutz and lirchot. So we talked a little bit about that last week, which is bathing. There are definitely kulas to take a shower if it's not stamazay, to take a shower if you are feeling very discomforted. So you don't have to take a long, hot shower. You could wash up with the minimum amount of water. Some people would do it cold. Look, la halacha, if you want to be strict, you'd go until Shabbos without really washing properly. But lamaisa, in our communities, it's not feasible to really go sit a whole Shiva without washing up. Some people use wipes. There's body wipes you can use. I know when people are in the hospital and they don't take showers, they clean yourself. It's not a great way to clean yourself, but you clean yourself with body wipes. So if you want to be very frum, what?
It's a French shower.
It's a French shower, yeah. So you could do that if you want to, because then you're clearly not enjoying. No one's enjoying washing himself with a body wipe. It's not. That's no fun. It's pretty bad. So if you wanted to technically
Didn't the,
be super frum, you could do it that way.
does the Mishnah talk about Rabbi Gamliel saying that he's delicate?
Yes.
And therefore he bathed, so
He bathed
would we
that
be able to
night.
say nowadays? and
That,
people are
that's,
delicate?
there's two heterim. One is that our baths, when was the last time you took a bath? You took a shower. You know, I mean, there's some, so that, it's not the same, but the truth is an Avel is not supposed to wash even without it being a bath, so that's not enough, but there's a special thing about Rechitza, which is in a bath, not a shower, so it's considered like, arguably, they could wash their hands and their feet or whatever it is. Our shower might just be considered like that. That's heter A. And heter B is we're so conditioned to taking a shower. Oh, I actually think we didn't talk about this last week. We talked about taking a shower on Yontif a few weeks ago. That there's, because that's what it was. Yontif, the halacha says, Shulchan Aruch says, you cannot take a bath. It's like a Isser Dairaisa to take a bath on Yontif because it's not Shav L'chol Nefesh. Only a crazy mafunak would take a bath. Today, our shower is not a bath. That's heter A, and heter B is like you said. We're all mafunakim. Meaning it's now Adavar Shav L'chol Nefesh to take a shower on Yontif. But similarly, you could say the heter is not exactly the same as Yontif because why is Peter calling me? Oh, it's 10:01. Thank God for Peter. Yeah, that's what's great about this show. You know it's over. 10 o'clock. Thank you, Lou. Sure.
I'm so glad I came to the